Namaste and welcome to this evening's offering and continuation of the last week's program on Know Your Children. Let me start with our prayer and I welcome you all to join me and let's start the program with a prayer. O Lord, take my love and let it flow in fullness of devotion to Thee. O Lord, take my hands and let them work incessantly for Thee. O Lord, take my soul and let it be merged in one with Thee. O Lord, take my mind and thoughts and let them be in tune with Thee. O Lord, take my everything and let me be an instrument to work for Thee. Welcome back. It's indeed a pleasure to continue the series which we started last week about knowing our children and understanding their growth patterns. Today we'll continue the journey and look at the rest of the three developmental areas. And then I have a guest also who will join me today and share their experiences and scenarios of such events. So let me take a little recap on the first week. So we saw, let me bring in that developmental milestone. So, yes. So last week we looked at the developmental milestones and we saw how the age related developmental is so important and how we must always keep that in mind. So we started at looking at 0 and 3 safety and security, emotional stability, and social skills. So these three aspects we had kind of looked at. And now we look at the life skills section, consolidation period, and the validation period. Just to recap, at this age of from birth till age of 3, we focus primarily on the safety and security network around the children. We don't want to give any chance or any opportunity for a child to feel left out, to feel lonely, to feel experience any negative uh, frequencies, negative feelings, or any kind of fear. So from there, we bring him to an expression stage where he starts expressing himself. And in that expression, his emotional stability plays a very key role. The more and more children are emotionally stable, they understand how to manage their emotions and how to communicate. That would help them into the next stage of development, which is social skills. So in the social skills, we like them to interact more. We like them to put them in different scenarios. And hence they start to learn how to be together, how to work together, how to build and depend on each other. So from there now, let's move to the next stage. So imagine a child who is safe and secure, who has that self confidence in himself or herself, has emotional stability, which means the child knows how to conduct, how to manage himself, how to convey his emotions and feelings. And then he has the knack and the skill to be part of a growing healthy society. So he has the required social skills. So hence, from that stage, he comes to the life skill pattern. Now, what does life skill actually entail? These are the skill sets which I call them as pursuing interest and building varied skills. Like you have sports, you have music, you have arts, you have languages, you have dramas, painting, whatever. So this way, the child develops a kind of a broader personality. The child has what we call as a integrated, a varied personality. Now, people may wonder as to why it is required. Otherwise, what happens is for a normal, like if the child is not exposed to these things, they tend to go towards what is usually given to them and they get familiar with, and they find comfort in that activity or that event. And in that comfort zone, a child feels happy with that. But the trouble of that is the child loses empathy or understanding and appreciation of other forms of life. And you never know how the child will grow up and which environment or situations he will be put into. And these life skills actually expand the horizon. They give him kind of a broader understanding of life and teaches the children adjustment, adaptability, growth. So it's a phenomenal thing that children are exposed to these things. And the good part is that at this age of children, they are very receptive. They are like sponge. So whatever you throw at them, they will pick it up and they can learn things. See, at the later part of the year, if I want to learn a language, it is a humongous job. But at this age, if you put them into language classes, they can pick up couple of languages with no much strain. They can learn music, they can learn dancing, they can learn anything you put them. They may not pursue it as their profession or as their life, ambition fulfillment. That's okay, but at least they will have appreciation for that as they grow up. Now, if you do not have that, then what happens? These deviations from this development, what happens? In that, we find that the children have the coping mechanism, how to adjust if you get a loss scenario or you fear uncertainties. How do you manage and deal with them? If you do not have these life skill experiences, then that would be a challenge. You will be more prone to these things. And the broader perspective of life, adaptability, empathy, all these things get impacted if there is a deviation. And if you give them, then certainly all these things play a wonderful role in our children. Now I have given these examples, and I'm sure you all can think of many things. Like when we grow up, and suppose I'm stressed, the normal thing which today's youth, which I've seen, they say let's have a drink and relax. So then you develop a different attitude and different style of coping with your stress or with your tiredness, with your pressures and all the issues. But if you have the life skills, if you have been given the foundation of life skill, then in the later part when you are stressed, a person could come back home and just play his instrument or go for dance, just do a half an hour dance, aerobics, or listen to good music. So any such thing can not only relax him but keep him in the positive zone all the time. So you don't have to develop a negative tendencies to cope up with another problem. So that is the beauty of this life skill phase. So it's a very beautiful uh, stage in life, and I always encourage. I know it's a lot of work when you look at parents from the parents' perspective. Obviously, they have to give a lot of time and in taking children from one class to another class and then all that. But unfortunately, this also calls for an attention to the school system to provide for these facilities in the school itself. So more and more you provide for it, then you will see that there is no need for children to step out and go into different environment, because then again you are challenging yourself into environmental control. Like the environment which we have worked towards, the school and the home, now you have to work towards the school, home, and your training schools and colleges and everything. So there are a million things which a child is now thrown into different environment. So now you have more challenge in collaborating and trying to understand how do I give my children the best possible exposure. So these are the things which parents need to understand, that if you are sending your child to any extra classes or any extra activities, what kind of environment they are getting into. So these are all factors to be considered when we are looking at the developmental issue of our children. And that is why, even though the life skill is very important, so when we are giving the life skills for our children to grow beautifully, we should never forget the other influencing factors which can also disturb the positive elements of life skill development. So this is the equation which we need to keep in mind always. So let's look at the next phase. Now from there we come into this consolidation phase, and I have tried to put that in a bracket of 12 to 16. Please do not take it like a hard and fast, like 12 years to 16 years. It is just a frame of understanding that is a phase which a child goes through. In this consolidation phase is basically they are into teens, their body, mind is opening up into different new experiences. So they are actually trying to assimilate all their learning. They're trying to understand themselves. Even physically, they are trying to understand. Emotionally, they are trying to understand. And they are also looking at the whole surrounding, what is happening to them. So, whatever experience till the age of 12 they have gained by going through the kindergarten and primary and secondary school, and now they are getting into life skills coaching and all that. See, they have to digest it. you know our master used to tell us that munching, you first graze like a cow. There's a very beautiful analogy of a cow eating. So you send a cow for grazing, that grazes, and then it finds a shelter under a nice shaded tree, and then the cow brings out the grass which she has munched, and then she munches on the grass. And only after she starts munching it, the juice and the energy of the grass she imbibes. So all these learning phases are like grazing period. A normal average child does not have the ability of consolidation and interpretation. So this is the consolidation phase which I can put it together and say, okay, this is like a munching phase now. Now the grazing is done, not totally done, but yeah, it is majorly done. And now the child is actually munching, consolidating, analyzing, internalizing whatever has happened to him or her throughout that phase. So interpretations, understanding. So you will find little bit of questioning coming there. That Y generation kid, as I always mention about it, people wonder why everything they have to ask for, why this, why that, is because they are consolidating. They're trying to make sense of whatever has gone through in their life. So this is a phase I call as a consolidation period, in that you assimilate, you internalize, and you question. This also raises a very beautiful thing about parents. Many parents tell me that children ask difficult questions, and many times we don't have answers for it, and that's true. Because typically in our generation we notice that our parents never questioned their parents, and they followed. We questioned, but we didn't stick to our questioning, but we followed. But our children do question us, and they don't move till they get an answer. And sometimes out of respect or out of fear they may do it, but they will not once they are independent. So this is a consolidation phase wherein they are questioning and trying to make sense of what has happened. So if they don't get right answers, then they may drop off. So here also it raises a very beautiful question that parents need to do learning. Parents need to learn. Parents need to do a self introspection and continue the journey of growth. That's why I call it parenting as a wonderful path or a tool of self actualization. Because if you want to be just good parent, you will naturally be self actualized and self happy. Because the whole activity which a parent has to go through, starting from accommodating, adjusting, sacrifice, all are wonderful attributes of a self realized soul. So just be a parent, a good parent, and you will be a self realized person naturally, because everything what you need to get to done, it is a pure sadhana, it is a pure, a penance in a way. So that is a phase a child is going through, and that is what we have to understand and appreciate. And for that, our learning has to continue with them. So this is the phase of consolidation. Now, what is the impact? Once they have rightly consolidated, it builds confidence in them, it gives them conviction with clarity. They know exactly now, why am I supposed to do what I'm doing. So it's a lifestyle convictions also, like, okay, my parents live this lifestyle, if I want to live a different lifestyle or the same lifestyle, I am convinced about it and I know exactly why I want this or that. It is so beautiful once these validations are properly done. Okay, and it also helps them in evaluating what is good and what are not so applicable practices, so they can make their judgments, and they are able to understand the deviations as to, if my parents have deviated, why did they deviate. It's like my father telling me that I smoked because I had nothing better knowledge. So your choice whether you want to smoke or not. Now, as a child, if he has been given the proper, you know, development, then acknowledgement of deviation is very easy. So it is now easily understood that, hey, should I or not? Should I want to choose that life or not? And then I will move forward and then choose my lifestyle. So that is an impact of this stage. If dealt properly, this can be a huge blessing for the children. So this is very important for everybody to keep in mind. Then we come to the next phase, and the last one is the validation phase. The validation phase, I say about, it's a lifestyle decision. Now, if you look at the whole growth cycle, you have consolidated and internalized and understood what I want. Now, in validation phase, if there is anything left out, now I want to do a test of my own. Can I do some experiments of my own? I believe my father, I believe my elders, I believe my school, I believe my teachers, but there are some things in the belief system that I need my own experience. I need my own understanding. That's why this age is critical, when children like to do things. They want to try it, and sometimes it is dangerous what they try, but that is why they try, because they want to validate, they want to understand with a personal experience, not just theoretical, not just somebody said it, but their own. So how do parents collaborate and help them to get experiences of life without hurting or damaging their self confidence? And this is the validation period. And this is where the stage of empowerment comes, when the parents have to let go and start allowing the children to get the experience of decision making, of getting them that independent feeling. Not they are independent, but get them feeling of independence, that okay, now let us decide. And parents will help them to understand the decisions and the process of decision. So that is empowerment is getting there. So now we are giving children that sense of independence, the sense of empowerment, the sense of decision making, and the consequence of it. So this is a phase when you can have discussions, you can have elaborations with the children, and the child can should be able to explain their stand. So if they don't like what the parents are saying, can they come up with some nice logical statements? Can they explain why? Can they explain what they want and justify that without getting into an argument or without getting into a fight? So that requires this validation phase. And all that with the premise that they have gone through safety and security, emotional stability, and life skills. And sorry, the social skills, social interaction skills. So when they have those foundational things done, then these phases become easy. If not, then the work on the validation phase becomes little tough, but it is not impossible. And in my little experience, I have seen that in this phase, up to this phase, it is very, very possible to change the habits, the character, and the personality of any child. You are still in the phase wherein it is doable. But yes, it is not as easy as doing it at the earlier ages when the child was ready and ready to receive and ready to play with. But today it can be done, but parents and elders must be aware of the whole process to know how to deal with that. And the impact of this is you build, obviously, you rebuild your relationship and bonding, fix any deviations, and help them to make lifestyle choices. And of course, they become more self confident. So, this is an impact of these cycles. And that is where now we come into the scenarios. But questions. Now, here I would like to invite, as I was telling you before, today I have a very beautiful and very loving guest with me. She comes from Toronto, Canada, and she is she's a physiotherapist. She has worked in India, Kenya, Canada, and later on she took a I would say, retirement, early retirement, to pursue her calling or her passion. And then she started offering services to school. She has worked in the capacity of teaching healthy living, and she even does reading for children and coaches some children one on one. She has served in parenting community parental council representatives, and finally, I think she has found her calling and her passion in facilitating as a facilitator for dynamic parenting workshops for schools and for community parents. So I have without further ado, I have the pleasure of welcoming Auntie Geeta Vora. Welcome, Geeta ji.
Thank you very much, Abhi, for those lovely and beautiful words for me. Uh, I'm really, really very happy to be with you today.
It's my
Uh,
pleasure.
yes, and as far as parenting is concerned, my heart really goes out to those parents who are really having a little bit of a trouble with their children, and I see that on a day-to-day basis in my workshops as well as at the school. And my heart really burns when I see this with the children, and therefore I really think that some kind of a guidance to the parents is very, very essential. uh, Another thing also, as I would say, is that if you look at the about say about 100 years ago, the parenting, the way it was done for children was more for it was more like a village coming together and actually bringing up a child. Like your neighbors could come and tell your parents like what your child is doing, or even your uncles, your aunties, they all had an integrated relationship with the child, and they would be able to sort of impart their values to you. Unfortunately, that has really gone away because of the nuclear family system that we have right now. And people are really going away and away from this. And probably that's because of and that is the reason why I would say that the values are really going down. And so we do need to reincarnate the values back into the system to have a beautiful parenting. Uh,
I think very well said, Auntie, because I've realized that, the job which a village does, like what you mentioned as a village or a joint or an extended family, is unfortunately fall on the shoulders of parents in the nuclear environment. So they have to play the role of storyteller, disciplinarian, friend, and guardian, and then do jobs. So it is obviously tough, and that has really taken the toll on the children.
mhm.
And we have seen the deviations for last, I would say, some couple of decades now.
Yes,
So
I
we
would
have
agree with you
suffered
there.
that.
Definitely, I would
So
agree.
when you do your workshops, how is your experience there?
Um, Like, okay, it's kind of because our workshops are basically stretched out into 10 workshops. So obviously, every week we do give them a skill or a tool for the parents to go home and work with it. And we have seen a lot of changes coming through. At the same token, I would also say that even, yeah, sometimes the parents do go through failures. And I always say, I always emphasize that, basically a failure is a stepping stone for success. So keep on trying, keep on trying. And we have seen a lot of change. But again, I would say that it really depends on how much of the, the couple is on the same page. Many a times, when the couples are in two different directions of parenting, it is very confusing for the child. So it's a beautiful thing that, the parents come together and take these workshops. Not that I'm actually advertising here for the workshops, but I've seen that when a couple takes it, it becomes a major and beautiful impact on the child because everything is coming from one tone rather than two different tones.
We in fact for the education, like I promote this as an parental involvement with education, how they can collaborate and help education system and schools. So we try to have a collaboration between the parent and the teacher. And what you are presenting is also another facet to it, is like between the parents also they must be having a good agreement, because if
Hmm.
they talk different tones, then child will play with them.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So
And
why don't
that's
we have
sure.
some scenarios from you, so that we can explain this whole concept with those
Hmm.
scenarios and see how you have found parenting workshops and value orientation will help. So if you can
Hmm.
share a couple of scenarios with us, and I'm sure people who are watching us can also join and give feedbacks on whatever Gitaji is sharing, and then we take it from there. So
Sure.
please give us some scenarios.
So these scenarios basically are just not coming from the top of my head. They are the live scenarios. I've seen it happening.
Very good.
Now, the first one that I'm going to talk about is a JK student, which is a junior kindergarten student. Remember, the student is only 3.5 to 4 years old. And so at the end of the day, usually the parents are supposed to come and pick the children up from school. And here, this I've seen these kids, they are so anxious at the end of the day to talk to their parents that what has happened and what has transpired throughout the day at the school. Unfortunately, the parents, when they come to pick the children up, I have seen that they are busy on their phone. They've got their headphones on and they are just doing something on their phone. And all they do is they shush the child away. And it's really, really heartbreaking to see these little ones with their, sort of sad faces. And like, I'm just wondering at that particular time, what is the role of the mother or the father who's coming to pick up the child at this time? So go ahead.
Let me share this screen also along with that, so people can get an idea. Now you mentioned 3.5, 4 years, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
are seeing here on the emotional stability part of it. So here is a child who is excited from the school, and he runs towards the mother, and the mother, as you said, she has some phone work going on. She has come to pick up the child, and she does not give the child that due attention which the child was expecting. And then you see an expression change in the child. Now, if you look at that, it's an emotional stage. So it's not impacting so much on her safety and security because the mother was right outside. So he's secure from the school to that. But emotional part, which has to be taken care, is shaken up. And if that, if that thing keeps happening again and again to the child, in his subconscious mind, it'll get registered that I'm not that important, the phone is critical, or my mom has got better things to do than to look at me, or her job is more important than anything else. See, all these are like, subconscious feelers we are sending to the child. So if you look at I'm sure very good, and I think is a very practical thing. I'm sure many parents can relate to it, that it is and but they may not be able to, they might not have thought about it to map it to the child. that in that emotional stability stage, even this small deviation of mother not acknowledging the child can play an havoc in the child's personality. And I'll tell you, I'll just give you a little bit of contrasting example. I'm sure you might have heard that. Imagine at the age of say 12 to 16, how many parents feel that they are not able to talk to the children. Children are always on their cell phones.
Hmm.
They don't have time for the parents. Have you heard that?
Hmm. True, true,
So I'm not trying to
definitely.
complain it, but you can map it and say that this is a probability which has happened in the earlier ages. When
Hmm.
we did not consider the emotions of our children, hence they are not able to appreciate the emotions of the parents when their turn comes. And that consolidation period is the time when, if not handled properly, then it becomes a challenge for the child also to realize. But if in that phase also, if the parents realize it, what has happened in the past, and help the child to acknowledge it with accepting their flaws or their slip, that can also change the scenario. So I'm sure, how many workshops do you take for to pass on this message to the parents?
Well, all throughout, because although our workshops has different modules, but it's still this goes on all throughout. And mind you, here I would also like to add one thing: is it's just not the parents, but even many a times what happens is that when the wife, or I would say either spouse, wants to talk to the spouse, the other spouse is so busy in their either cell phones or looking somewhere else or looking at the TV screen which is on, and they do not give an eye to eye contact. So when you do not have this kind of a respect even for elders, you're going to continue the same with your children as well. Many a times I've also seen, like, the little child is standing right by the mom in the kitchen and always keeps pulling on to their saris or their clothes. Mom, I want to talk. Mom, I want to talk. But little do the parents, they shove them away. They say, oh, no, 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 let me get done with this cooking first, and then I will attend to you. Is it that important to miss all these little things in life? It's only the little things in life which makes a huger impact on you. So there, we have to sit back and think as to what we are doing. Is it right or not? Can we
let
not
me let me
spare those
play a,
five
let me
minutes?
play a devil's advocate here. The mom will say that, hey, I have to finish cooking, and this fellow is supposed to be doing his homework at that time, and he leaves that and comes. And now what do I do? If I don't finish, then it everything gets delayed.
Hmm.
So
True, I agree with you. But there is always a time when you can give a leeway. Like, okay, the homework, yes, the child was supposed to do the homework, but again, depends on what age group it is. So many a times, like, you need to help the child as well with their homework. So, and then of course, sometimes the children are calling from that end, like, mom, I need help, but mom is too busy cooking. It's not just only cooking, it's anything, I would say. Like, your prior, like, once the child is in bed early, you have got a lot of time for yourself to work on, but only if you have developed those criterias, which is
correct.
so
So
important.
so basically, the parents need to have the priorities first set as to how they play it, and they must have the rapport with the child and make them understand, so that the child also does not feel left out or being neglected.
Hmm.
Then probably the mother can easily say, okay, I'm coming, just give me 2 minutes. And that would also be a wonderful way of interaction. But for that, the groundwork has to be done. A
Hmm.
relationship, a trust, and a communication must have happened already. Appreciate
True.
it. That's a very good scenario. I'm sure parents can judge, like make self assessments through that. So let's have the second scenario. Yeah.
Before I go into the second scenario, also I would
Yes.
say, like, if it's say about a 5-year-old child and the mom is busy cooking, okay, so she can always say, could you help me? Okay, like, can you go and get me this? Can you go and get me that? At the same token, you get the child involved. You've already distracted the child from what he's come to you for. And then again, your work is being done, but at the same time, you're helping the child also by
So
involving
you
him into the chores.
correct, and the child will not feel left out, or he won't feel
Exactly,
neglected. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, you
So the
have to
basic
make
idea is that the child must not get emotional dent and
right.
hurt. So how do you play that is your, as a
It's
mother,
yeah,
ingenuity. How do you
it's your
think
call.
about it?
Yes,
Perfect. I
yes.
think that's a very good solution. So in
Mhm,
whatever manner, either you have a talk before, after, or engage them, the point to notice here is that somehow the child should not get an emotional dent. That's it.
mhm,
That's
mhm.
perfect. I think that that is really a very good summation of it. Thank you.
Okay, you're very
So let's
welcome.
go for the second. Let's take the
Sure,
second scenario.
sure. The second scenario which I'm thinking about is, of course, technology,
Ah,
and it's a big thing right now. So, and with Corona, of course, we are getting more and more into technology. So the thing is that these days, the thing that we notice is that the homework and everything is kept on one side, and children are getting more and more into technology, like trying to play games. Even it's amazing to see that when there are online classes on, the teacher is not aware of all these things that's happening, but the children are busy playing games and chatting amongst each other. So they really need a supplementary help to look at the online children. And as a matter of fact, right now I'm actually playing that role of being a supplementary teacher, helping a teacher to see what's happening online. And this is where the I like, we as parents, what do we need to do to control this? I'd rather control it, or I would say rather to help them out. How can we help them in deciding what is important in life, whether it is the technology, or whether they should, sort of give the attention to whatever they are doing at that particular moment.
see, this COVID has brought in a very new challenge. Actually,
Hmm.
nobody was, I would say, prepared to handle these kind of scenarios. But having said that, the technology issue has been there for long, and the debate is a perpetual debate as to how much should we have technology interference with children, how much should we give, and at what age it should come. So I think there is a lot of research and discussions already on the platform, and I have also shared some tidbits here in my previous sessions. But the fact of the matter, I feel, the challenge to handle any scenario, if you have not done the job in the earlier stages, becomes tough. So like if you have put discipline in place in the earlier ages, then the child will have the practice of following the discipline, and then they know how much to use, when not to use, and why. But if it is not done in that manner, in a proper manner, then at the later age, it becomes a challenge. And like what you are doing, being helping the peer teachers to, to figure out. Now, children are more smarter than auntie. I'll tell you. All of the, if you look at it, I have a friend here who gave me a scenario. He said he has got couplets, twins actually. He's got twins, and both are in the same class. And one twin likes to talk, another twin loves to do technology. They are still in the class sixth or something like that. But somehow he got into the system and he muted everybody except his brother. So the whole online class, his brother is speaking over teacher and everybody, and nobody knows how to manage it. So they had to ultimately call the father and tell him that please tell your children not to do that. And they were all shocked, like how did they enter into the system first of all, and how he gained control over everybody. Now that is the level of our children. So
Hmm.
it's scary. If you look at it, it's really scary. But it's a very difficult to control and manage. And
True.
only way you can do is if you have learned the art of talking to children from a values tone.
Well,
If the children understand what is not right, what is right, what is applicable, what is not applicable, what is appropriate age and place wise, if you have already done these discussions, then it is comparatively easier to call a child and then discuss that, tell me, what is the problem? Should you do that? Is that the right forum? So instead of punishing them or direct passing a verdict, it is a beautiful thing to make the child realize what they have done and let them make a call whether it is right or wrong. Until then, you keep drilling it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I have seen in my experience that I do this to a 5 year old kid, a 4 year old kid. So imagine if a child is in tune in that phase at that age of 4 and 5. So you can imagine when he grows up to 15, 16, how easy it will be to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he has learned the art of introspection and self assessment by the time he's 5 year old for emotional validity, then imagine his capacity to introspect and make out at 16 will be much different. So their time to communicate, to implement, will become comparatively much easier. If it is not, then I have to reinstate that confidence. That means I have to have a dialogue again, the same dialogue which I missed at the age of 5. I have to restart here.
Mm-hmm.
But now the patience with which the 5 year old will listen to me will be different at a 16-year-old. So I have to now figure out my patience level has to go up so that I can talk to that 16-year-old from that maturity, with that understanding, with that camaraderie, so that the child starts to believe and analyze himself. So it is a journey.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
why I tell the parents why this cycle is important is not because you many parents tell me, hey, I have missed it. Now what do I do? Why do I need to learn it? The point is, yes, you have missed it. But if you learn about this, then you will know how to go back.
True.
If you know that it's a problem of not the indiscipline, it's a problem of emotional stability. If
Mm-hmm.
you know that the problem is not of disobedience, but social interactions, then certainly you will know what to fix. Otherwise, you are giving wrong medication for a problem. So knowing these cycles and knowing this journey of a child is why I feel it is important, so that we can not only diagnose but try to give the right medication.
True.
So if I see a problem in children, suppose a child pushes somebody, so a complaint comes that this child kicks this child. Now the problem is, the complaint is that okay, it's a physical hurt, he should not do it. But then when I discussed and found out the source of it, it was not a push. The difference was that the child was little grown up child, like his built was bigger. So when he was very energetic. So when he would get up from his place, he would not get up in a very simple manner. He would just shake everything and get up. So in that shake up, he would push one or two people here and there. And unfortunately, one little like tiny girl was standing next to him that day, and she got pushed. So the
Yeah.
complaint that is he pushed. But when
Yeah.
you really look into it, he didn't push,
And
poor
push.
fellow.
Mm-hmm.
But he could not manage his
Mm-hmm.
energy.
Right.
So the solution was not to punish him for pushing, but to teach him how to control himself, how to manage himself. See, this is the problem with the whole approach when we look at the issues on a surface level.
Mm-hmm.
So
True.
technology can be a surface level issue, but the seed of that problem could
Is
be a
earlier.
lack of disconnect between the parent and the child. It
Mm-hmm.
could be lack of communication and trust. It could be the lack of faith, which the parents need to pass it on to the child and say, I trust you, you will never give up, you'll never bring a bad name to me. See, these are small statements, but they are very powerful at the right
Powerful.
time.
True.
So I think if you really look at the whole scenario, it is a very beautiful thing, and I know it sounds very complicated, but it is not actually. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure when you
Sure. In the same token, although I would say emotional stability is a very, very large thing as far as children are concerned, but in the same phase, don't forget the role modeling is also extremely important. Like
very
you
much
are sitting at
certainly
the dining table, and yes, everybody is eating dinner, but if a phone call comes, a dad runs and gets it. Hello, what are you giving this? What signal are you giving to the child at that particular moment? Is that the dinner wasn't very important, but what was important was to attend to the call. So if you can run for your technology, why not the children? So do not deprive them if you yourself are not in the proper state. So role modeling is equally important, because many a times also you have seen that, they put the children to bed, say maybe by 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and the next thing you see that the parents come down and they are watching TV. Sometimes the children get up in the middle of the night, and hello, you see their children watching TV. What are you trying to tell them? You are not supposed to do it, but I, being an adult, I can do it. So right
So
away, the signal is so confusing.
that's
So
why they wait for 16 or 18 years.
yeah, to throw back at you. Absolutely.
I'm saying,
Absolutely.
wait, Dad, I'm now 16 tomorrow, so
Hmm.
I
So
can
that's
watch
why,
TV.
if they can teach, like role modeling is very, very important part of the emotional stability of a child. Being on the same
Perfect.
page was one, and second is role modeling. Is what you do is what they see. Because monkey see, monkey do. And we should not forget that.
I would say role modeling is applicable for every stage of life.
True. True.
Every stage, and
Very,
it is,
very
as you
true.
rightly said, it is very important. It is the most important thing, actually.
Hmm.
Certainly.
Okay.
Excellent. So give me another scenario. We have,
Give you another scenario.
yeah.
Okay. So the other scenario that we really come across a lot, and especially I bet you that must be happening also in India as well, but it's quite common over in Canada, is there are quite a few joint family systems here. And what has happened is that, after even these parenting workshops that we have been doing, the parents, they go home with the tool, or even otherwise too, they are, trying to implement some of the tools onto their children. And usually when they try to either give them the consequences for their actions that the children have done, next thing you see, the grandparents will come and pull the child away. Oh, no, 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 no. Our child is an angel. You don't do that. Okay? It's nothing like that. Nothing like that. And definitely they pull the child away. So right away, here there are four people in the home, and you're giving so many confused messages to the child. So at that tender age, how do you control this? And unfortunately, if the couple tries to tell the parents, and especially if it's supposed to be an in-law, oh my God, you're opening up another can of worms. So how do you tell your grandparents to stay out of this, and here you want to discipline your child? So that's
I
that's
know
very
I
commonly
have,
seen here.
yeah, in my experience in Trinidad, I was in Caribbean for a few years, and there this was very common because I'm sure more than Canada, we had this joint family in Trinidad side. So in Caribbean also, a lot of people live very close by or together. They have a fairly bigger house that way. So, and this issue was very common that mother would say something and the child will run to the granny, and
Hmm.
then granny will obviously cover him up. And if he the child and the child children are very smart, they know exactly which demand will be fulfilled by which parent. It is mom, dad, or grandfather, grandmother. So they know exactly how to swing and how to play with them. So it was a very funny scenarios to watch. And we already had a tough time to bring father and mother together to talk in one language. Now to bring the next generation in one line was,
Hmm.
it's impossible,
Hmm.
because there is always a kind of a confusion. But I'll tell you, Italy, I'll give you a nice thought. A child needs pampering from grandparents,
Agree.
because that is the role of a grandparent, to pamper.
Hmm.
And all the people who have experienced that love of grandparent would acknowledge that that is the best memories of childhood, that you went behind the back of your parents and knowingly you played fool and you did that, and parents acted very dumb as if they didn't understand anything, and they also let it pass because it was grandmother or grandfather playing that. So it was a very beautiful, I think. Of course there is a deviation of discipline for that moment, but it adds to the flavor of children life. It adds to such a beautiful memories, that you fondly remember later on that I used to have fun with my grandfather. I used to love my grandmother for that, because she was supporting you, even if wrong, doesn't matter. But I feel that should not be deprived, even if we put a, we suggest that put a discipline and all that. But that playful prank, that innocent, that mischief should not be deprived. And if
Mhm.
those children who have grandparents along with them, I would say they are blessed. So
Mhm.
let them have fun.
Mhm.
That is a very important thing to note. But yes, having said that, there are some things for which I would think that deviation should not be, and that is moral and value based activities. So, like if you find that there is a deviation which is principally wrong, as a family, as a human being, if the child has deviated, then all the parents, be it grandparents, in laws, whosoever, must come into one stand. If there's a deviation of character, if the
Mhm.
deviation which is hurting the personality of the child, suppose a child is caught stealing or caught abusing, now that can't be sheltered. Lying, if he's caught into these activities which are a deviation from the personality of a character, a good character, which we call,
True.
I think that is the area which I do not allow, or I don't propose any
Mhm.
deviation to be allowed,
Mhm.
because that is not love. If you shelter that, then you are actually misusing the term love,
Mhm.
because you're hurting the child. The child tomorrow will suffer because of those deviations. And I don't think any parent in their good heart would like to see their parent child suffer tomorrow. But
True.
yes, other than that, other than that, which is not damaging his character, but a playful mischief of, okay, did you do a homework? Yes, I did. Did he sleep in the afternoon? Yes, he slept. Even though he did not, he was playing with his granny or doing something else. Those deviations parents can make out. You look at your
Mhm.
child and you know he has not done it. So it's not a rocket science for any parent to catch your child. But do not disclose it and go with the flow, because that is a very beautiful journey of a child's memory. And it is a sometimes it is a blessing, and it's maturity of a parent to act ignorant. A parent must turn his head away and say, okay, if you're saying that you have done it, it's okay. I
Mhm.
believe you that you have slept, even though you
Mhm.
know he has not slept.
Mhm.
He was fooling around and granny is covering him up. Big deal about it, because
Right.
they are not part of the issues of character. It is that sweet mischiefs, that can I do some deviations. My mom says you must only watch for half an hour, and the granny allowed him to watch for 1 hour. The sky has not fallen at that moment. The problem is that that deviation is allowed, as long as it builds an rapport between the child and the grandparents. See, there is a every relationship is important for the growth. So because tomorrow when the child feels little bit down here, at least he has got two more faces to talk to. See, there is so much flexibility in life that one must give this venues. And I that's why I promote, even in school environment, I say, all the parents must come together and provide those children that harmonious, camaraderie. If suppose you are driving your child to your school and your neighbor children are in the same class, why can't you pool? And the
Mhm.
pooling is not to save petrol or a gas or something like that. It is actually building bond. So you know that the child can trust each other now. Now instead of one mother, he has got like four mothers now
Mhm.
looking at you. So
Mhm.
there is an expansion in understanding that yes, hey, she used to carry me to school. I used to go and eat dinner with her sometimes. That memories also help tomorrow. When you grow up, you have very fond memories that, hey, she used to carry me to school, and they would, on the way, she would get us something to eat. And
Mhm.
so those
Mhm.
are wonderful memories. So
True.
anything which builds those kind of rapport, I personally I love that. I always like recommend people that do that. And
Mhm.
it's not to save some pennies here or penny there. Of course, it happens. But the prime thought is not to save, money or gas or time, but it is to give the children that exposure
Mm-hmm.
of expansion, that
True.
now the child must understand that we are one family, we are one community,
Mm-hmm.
and the trust expands. And that's what happened to most of our families in India and Caribbean. I have seen in two, three places actually. Indonesia also is like that.
Mm-hmm.
Caribbean is like that. And India, of course, we had it till the cities got differently influenced. But
Mm-hmm.
it's there everywhere.
Right. Right.
Excellent. I think
Okay.
a lot of things are beautiful in these. I think we can take one more scenario, Auntie, if you like.
You sure? Looking at
Yeah,
the
one more.
time. Okay. Okay. So the other scenario is like the family goes for grocery shopping all together, and the children get fascinated and they start putting things into the cart because that is something that they love to have. And all the time when the children are putting things into the cart, the mother is taking it out and putting it back onto the shelf. And this keeps on going. And ultimately, the child starts throwing tantrums. At this particular time, what do you think is the role of the parents? And now I'm
I'll
talking about
actually,
children who are very little.
yeah, they are actually, they should be around the age of 3, 4 in
Yeah,
that
three and
range,
four.
right?
3 and 4.
Yeah.
So,
I'll
how are
give
you
you
going to empower this
yeah,
child?
I'll give you a life story of my brother in London, and he had a son at that age, and I was there with him one day, and we went for. He said, "Let's go. I have a routine with my son. I take him to grocery shop." So it was the best way for him to not only bond with his son, but at the same time give him, a lot of vocabulary lessons. Like
Mm-hmm.
instead of teaching him anything, he would go to that aisle and start talking. This is this vegetable, and they'll start spelling it, naming it. So it was like I have seen him. That I thought it's a wonderful classroom in open. He would put him
Mm-hmm.
in the trolley, and he would just walk around the whole plaza shop, and his son will keep pulling things and putting.
Mm-hmm.
So initially I thought that okay, he's playing, so I thought okay, I'll put it back. Then he gestured me, don't do it now. He will watch.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay. Then I started watching him what he does. And what he did very beautifully, he allowed him to put whatever, because children are not, at that age, they're not bothered what they're pulling. It is their habit.
Mm-hmm.
They just, if they have taken the name of a chocolate, they need that. So he said, okay, you want it? Okay, put it here. And they're happy because it's in their territory, right? So they have put it. Now, after some time, he said, now let us walk and then you can pull more. So he put him down and he starts walking. Now, as he's walking, he's putting things back. So on one side, the son is pulling in the basket, and other side, he's putting that back in the shelf. So this
Mm-hmm.
trick went on, and it took him half an hour to do whole drama. First
Mm-hmm.
15 minutes allowing him to dump, and then next 15 minutes putting it back with talking to him. So they had a wonderful time of bonding. They learned a lot of words. They played games on the way. They were like, the running trolleys and then putting him. So they had good fun. And at the same time, he bought exactly what he wanted to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And additionally, he gave him a token at the end. So you have been a very good child. So you will get this candy today, or you get
Right.
this biscuit today, or you get this. So he got it. And he was not bothered how many he had collected on the way and put it back. So
Mm-hmm.
I found it was very ingenious of him that
Mm-hmm.
without fighting it out at that moment, he
Right.
just played this.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I said, it's taking time. He said, that's my purpose, to spend time with him. Now, whether I
Absolutely.
spend time with him sitting in the sofa or
Mm-hmm.
I take him and play with him, so I'm spending time. I was so happy because that is the logic, the
Mm-hmm.
correct. Because the quality time that we talk about, that having bonding, quality time,
True.
you don't have to be in front of a television to do that. In
Exactly.
fact, you can do the least there. So
Mm-hmm.
here he was driving with him, talking to him, playing in the grocery store. And I could think of it, the last place on earth I would think is a
Mm-hmm.
grocery store for bonding.
Mm-hmm.
But in a place like London, where you have, weather is cold,
Mm-hmm.
like in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a very beautiful
Very
thought.
beautiful thing to
And
do.
how
Yes.
he played it.
Mm-hmm.
So At that age, I would say creativity of a parent is very important, like this example. And
Mm-hmm.
secondly, is that again, if you state it beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't take the children close to such areas that you will have problem, because
Right.
why to tempt them into the wrong things,
Exactly.
if you don't know
Exactly.
how to manage it, then
Mm-hmm.
do not even give them that exposure. And unnecessary, it's like tempting him with a chocolate in front and say, I won't give you.
Mm-hmm.
Now that
Mm-hmm.
is unfair.
Right.
Why do you excite a child so much and then pull him down and then destroy
Mm-hmm.
his whole happiness?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I would think that that is how parents can look at scenarios.
Right.
And I'm sure if people who are listening, if they have found something fantastic, they can always come back and share how they have
Absolutely.
resolved these issues. And if
Mm-hmm.
anybody wishes to share, they are more than welcome. And I
Mm-hmm.
will be happy to share with everybody, because this forum is that only, if you look at it, that we are not trying to be kind of an solution for everything, but it's a nice thing to share our journey, our learning, and then from there everybody who's participating can extract their essence, and hopefully it helps them. So I want to just check if anything has come. One, Rashmi says, dealing with orphan and underprivileged children, I find they are very emotionally weak. Can you add some tips to motivate them so that they are happy and expressive? I think Rashmi has a very beautiful scenario she has put. So, Gitaji, if you want to share your thoughts on that. And this is a very different scenario because,
Yeah, totally
as she
different.
said, orphan and underprivileged.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, their emotional development has been wrecked, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you keep them happy and motivated?
Here, actually, you need a lot of patience with them. Lot of patience, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Rashmiji,
basically, for this kind of a child, I would say empower them. Empower them to the maximum to do things and keep them happy. You have to, like, whatever, even little they do, because he's so emotionally weak, um, empower in such a way that every little thing that they do, make sure you give them an attribute of wow, well done, or that is so good, you can definitely do it. Those kind of words will really reinforce and build up his self-esteem, and then they can open up and be happy. So every minute or every second, if you could really empower them, and I definitely believe empowering does a lot for the children. This is the time when you actually sort of think that because they are underprivileged, or they are not understanding anything, you just shun them away and you do things for them. No. Even say, for example, holding a spoon and trying to feed himself, doesn't matter, he could spill all over, but be encouraging. No, do it. Oh my God, you can do it. Those kind of words will absolutely bring these children up and make them so happy. That's all I could say.
Rashmiji, I can really compliment you if you are dealing with such children, because as Gitaji was saying, that this is not an easy area, for a very simple reason, because as destiny would have it, they had a very little bit of rough and challenging upbringing in the beginning. So at this, when we talk about the flow, and you understand that their safety security is damaged, probably, and emotional stability is also not
Hmm.
taken care of, so they have those imprints. And then certainly because of that, their social interactions would not be at par with others. So obviously under these circumstances, you will find them, the expression you're finding emotionally weak is a natural expression, because they don't know any better, and either they will become aggressive or they will become totally closed in. You can see that extreme behaviors in such children, because either they want to prove that I'm fine and they become too outgoing, or they withdraw into themselves. So in both scenarios is a challenge to really dig into them, and they will not open up easily. And I would agree with Gitaji for that, that more and more love, and I would say the love quotient is very important. And in this point we have to be a little bit extra, if not, I'm not saying try to empathize too much that they start feeling as if you're doing a favor to them. See, that extreme expression also can hurt their self-esteem and confidence that, okay, I am like a bichara, I'm so useless that people are trying to take sympathy on me. But the fact is, on one hand, we should understand that their background is challenged, but at the same time, on this age, whichever they are, they must be encouraged with love. And as you rightly said, that if you are feeding and allow them to eat, even if they spill, you don't have to anything say. Just okay, carry on. It doesn't matter. So any kind of encouragement with love is the key. And
Mm-hmm.
really, emotionally, they will recover if they start finding trust and a kind of faith in people. So we have to literally start from the basics, that we have to start building that safety and security network for them. Can they trust you?
Mm-hmm.
Can they open up to you? Can they
Mm-hmm.
believe you that you will come when they need? You will be
Exactly.
there if they need. Can you
Mm-hmm.
help them? And it need not be financial help. Most of the
Mm-hmm.
time, it is emotional help. It is
True.
that sense of security
That
that
they
can I
need. Yeah.
call somebody when I need? I
Mm-hmm.
remember, if you know, there is an organization called Big Brothers and Sisters in America and in Canada. I have volunteered with them for a couple of years, and it was very beautiful experience for me because I was looking for such opportunities in that time, and they attach you with certain people of this certain children, and so you become their foster parent kind of. And I found that that was a something like that, but it was too legalized structure. But they give you the privilege of bringing them home also once you start developing the rapport, and the child is given the freedom to call you anytime they need. So you become like an elder brother or a sister for the child. So
Mm-hmm.
his organization is called Big Brothers and Sisters. So I think there are many people who think in that lines. But Rashmiji, if as we said, the best is love,
Love. Yes.
confidence,
Mm-hmm.
and just give them that kind of a feeling of safety, security, that we are with you, period.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
once they develop that feeling that yes, somebody is behind me, somebody is with me, then emotional stability will naturally start coming in.
Mm-hmm.
But what they lack is not really emotional first. What they lack is being alone in the world,
Mm.
being uncared for. So they have a challenge in their own security and safety issue. So if you look after that part initially, then everything else will naturally fall in its
Fall into
place.
place. Mm-hmm.
So
Right. Mm-hmm.
I would say thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and I would especially thank you, Gitaji, for coming and
Not at
sharing your
all.
valuable
My
inputs.
pleasure. My pleasure. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely
thank
my
you all
pleasure.
for people who have watched us and joined us. Thank you, Rashmiji, and others who have contributed. And I welcome you all to share your thoughts. And I wish all of you a very happy Navaratri. It's a good festive time. May auspiciousness be prevailing on everyone. May goodness and prosperity be on everyone.
Can I just
Thank
add
you
one
so
more
much.
sentence before you finish?
Please,
Okay,
please, please.
I just want to bring this to everybody here is that if we can start thinking about children as not our children, but his children. Make sure you think about that all the time that these are his children and we are just his custodians. And so whenever you borrow things from others, you take good care of that. So here we have borrowed his children from him. So obviously, our role becomes to be very good custodians, and they
And the
accept them
hymn
as
and the
challenges to
hymn
grow.
and the hymn is, I want to make it clear. And the hymn is
Hmm.
the
Oh,
God.
him! Oh,
Okay.
the Lord Almighty, Almighty,
Almighty. Okay.
Almighty. Yes,
So
we are
everybody
just
is
only
God's
His
children and He gives
custodians.
you the custodians. True.
Exactly. So even when you did the prayers, you said we want to be good instruments. Here we have got an opportunity to be good instruments. Do it, folks. That's all I can say.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you ever so much.
Namaste. Hmm.
Namaste.